I'm Max Armstrong, a farm broadcaster. Grew up on a farm in southwestern Indiana, about midway between St. Louis and Louisville, Gibson County, Indiana. And these days, my wife and I live just south of Raleigh, North Carolina. I fly back to the Chicago area every week to produce our television show, This Week in Agribusiness. I also do radio programs in conjunction with farm progress companies. One's called Max Armstrong's Midwest Digest. Another one is called Farm Progress America. And I'm still on the radio once a week on WGN Chicago, where I've been heard every week for 42 years. I'm living my dream. As a kid on the farm, I wanted to be on the radio, and I wanted to be on the radio in Chicago. So I've been very blessed to be able to do what I wanted to do as a very young man. I never dreamt of farming. I didn't want to be on the tractor someday when I grew up. I wanted to be on that air-conditioned radio studio job instead of out there under the sun on those farm-all platforms. But I got hooked. Mom and Dad held their auction on the farm, 1995, I believe it was, and their Farm-All Super H was in that auction. And at the radio studios in Chicago, I brought in the sale bill and showed it to a couple of engineers that I worked with, and they said, "Kid, you're not gonna let that tractor get away, are you?" And so I decided I was gonna bid on it. I was a successful bidder, and one thing led to another into this tractor fraternity that there are so many firm friendships formed. This is one of those family tractors that got away. It got away for a while, but not permanently, and I knew where it was. Dad sold it to the neighbor up the road there on the rural route in southwestern Indiana. So Bob and Phyllis had that tractor, but they didn't always keep it in the shed, and it sat outside. It sat outside for a long time. I could see it every time I went down the road. I knew it was out there, but I knew it wasn't in very good shape. After a few years, the telephone call came to our home, and on the answering machine, the neighbor, Phyllis, said, "Max, we're done with your dad's tractor. Come and get it." Click. And so the next time I was in the area, a couple of gentlemen went with me. We met the fellow out there with the tractor, and he said, "Just put some gas in it, it'll start." I said, "Bob, are you sure?" He said, "Put some gas and a battery in it." We did, put some water in the radiator, and it started. I started to drive it up the road to put it in the machine shed at our place. It did die on me. There was too much junk in the tank, but we pulled it on into the shed, and then it was safely in my hands. There's an interesting thing about the grill on the 560 that I never knew, but I learned from an international harvester engineer. A gentleman I got to know many, many years ago, Lloyd Eidelman, was an engineer. He worked for IH for a long time. He came here to the Half Century Show. I want to say it was about 4 shows ago. Lloyd has since passed away, but he walked around the tractor with me and he pointed to the grill. And if you look closely at the grill on that tractor, you see the bars coming across, and he said they weren't always that way, Max. They were individual bars that were bolted on to the outside frame of the grill. He said there was a cost containment guy came through the plant and said, let's take a look at this. There's probably a cheaper way to do it. So that's the story behind how that change was implemented. We had it restored by an FFA chapter. The FFA at Prairie Central High School at Fairbury, Illinois, worked on it, did a superb restoration, and one that I'm very, very proud of. Proud to have it back in the family one more time, and with some good friends here in Central Illinois taking care of it. It was badly in need of restoration. What I didn't know, I had no idea that the tractor had actually been turned over, had been rolled by the fellow who had it after my dad sold it to him. I guess he was mowing back in the field somewhere. He was not injured. But I found out from a cousin who said, that tractor was rolled one time. Then when the FFA members got in there to make the restoration, the FFA advisor said, are you aware of what we think happened here? It was amazing because the hood was fairly straight. There weren't many dents in it at all. And yet that tractor, somewhere along the line, had been rolled out there in the field. It was a tall challenge for those FFA members. They had some real good cooperation from the community, people lending a hand. But those FFA members learned a lot in the process. The FFA Tractor Restoration Program is tremendous. Many of those young men and women who participate in it go on to careers, maybe for Caterpillar or Case IH or Deere, but it's a great proving ground for them. One thing I found in judging the contest one year, the judges never see the tractor. You see the scrapbook, you see the records, you talk individually with those young men and women who are in the contest, and one of the most telling things when you shake hands with them You can tell in the handshake. It's like shaking hands with a dairy farmer. You can tell whether he or she has been doing some work with their hands on wrenches and tools. It's a really interesting process. The kids benefit immensely from it. And even those of us who judged it, I think, benefited too at the same time.